Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. All right, today we're going to do a little Q&A. I asked a bunch of you on Instagram stories what you want the podcast to be about, a topic that you're dying to know. So if you can think of something that you're really curious about, let me know. And I'd love to know what you want to hear and also how you like to hear this type of content. Outside of the podcast, do you prefer more blogs, or do you like longer Instagram posts, or do you like stories? Do you prefer video? We just love to know. So if you could do me a huge favor, and I know it's like, oh my God, what? Just shoot me a quick email and say, this is where I love your content the best. I need help with relationships and dating and confidence and whatever. Like, tell me, these are the reasons I go to your content. This is how I prefer to hear it. This is where it resonates with me the most. Like for me, I listen to podcasts. Like if I have a favorite person, like Skinny Confidential, love Skinny Confidential, listen to all of her stuff. And then she'll send like a wrap up email. So if you are not on my email list, that's what I do each week. I send you kind of a wrap up of the best Instagram posts, the podcasts that you may have missed, and a quick self-help tip. So you just have a little bit of like, okay, if I didn't really have time to pay attention and I was just kind of like busy, what was going on? Give me the highlight reel of your content. That's what my weekly email is about. Or I guess I hate the word newsletter, but it's really our weekly newsletter. It's just to keep you in touch and to have something that you can choose, kind of pick and choose what you want to focus on from the highlights of that week. So, but I'd love to know just what you like to do. If you like, is the podcast your go-to, or do you prefer blog? Do you prefer Instagram? Do you prefer stories? Give me your combination. Even if you send me 2 sentences, I'm good. melissa@gumballlove.com, or you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. All right. So to the questions. All right. Can exes be friends? First, I've been friends with an ex before, but then when you're trying to be friends with the ex and you get into another relationship, that's where I feel like it's easy to do, sort of easy to do when you're single, but when you're in a relationship, it complicates things. So when you're single, there's a key thing. 1, are you physically attracted to them? 2, do you still want to have sex with them? 3, are you jealous if they're telling you about their dating stories? I remember trying to talk to my ex years ago, and I was totally acting like none of these dating stories were bothering me. And I would get into the dynamics and he would tell me all the details. And inside, it wasn't like I was dying, but it wasn't fun for me to hear it. I would still get a little jealous. I would still get a little like, I don't really want to hear this, even though I didn't want a relationship with him. When he would, talk to me, or he would actually, sometimes this happens too. And I don't know, this is what happened with this ex. He actually had grown up quite a bit and he was a lot easier to talk to. And sometimes when they mature and you're friends, then you start getting ideas like, I don't know, maybe that was kind of a fun conversation. then you start testing things like, what do you think of me in this outfit? Or do you like, sorry for my computer notification, like, do you like this or like that? And then you're sending a selfie, and then you start kind of skirting that line of relationship, but not relationship. And so then what does that mean? So then you're in a tiny gray area. So then let's say you're not flirting. You're just talking about your day. You're talking about what's going on. So then they become a friend that you used to have sex with, a friend that you used to, or are you still attracted to them? So the bottom line is, if you have a regular relationship with an ex, there is intimacy there. You're sharing a connection. You're sharing parts of your life. So I always flip this around and I ask people one question that might help you with this. Do you want to date somebody right now? You want to find somebody online that is still talking to their ex in this way? Does that sound exciting and fun to you? Does that sound like, yeah, I don't mind if he's still texting his ex and they send selfies back and forth, or they're a little bit flirty here and there, because I know that they don't have any intention of getting back together. I mean, if you can deal with that, then hats off to you, because I couldn't. So I think that, one, we have to look at our single selves and can we have a relationship with this person and it be healthy? So I'll tell you, the end of the story is, while I was still single, I had to end the friendship with that ex. And I finally just told him, look, I can talk to you for a little while, but then I start to get attached and then I start to want more. And I know that we can't have more, that we're not right for each other. And so then I just start to have these feelings that actually one of the preachers, T.D. Jakes, had the greatest analogy for this. He said, your feelings become homeless. You have feelings, but there's nowhere for those to go. And so it feels frustrating. It feels sad. And because it's not the right person. So a lot of times what we're trying to do with our ex is really what we want to do with the right person. And so it doesn't mean that they're it doesn't have to mean that they don't have to be a bad person, is what I'm saying. Like in the case with my ex, he had been a really bad person. But then he got a lot better. And when we reconnected a few years after we broke up, it was like 7 years after we had dated that we had reconnected with each other. So it was a long period of time. And then it was like, wow, he's a lot more grown up. He's gone to therapy and our conversations were different. And that was really refreshing. Also because I did care about him. I didn't want bad things to happen to him, even though it was painful actually creating Gumball Love and realizing that he was just looking for the high. He wanted the attention all the time. Like, he even said these words to me when we reconnected. He was like, you're right. I did want attention all the time. And I needed it to be exciting all the time. And that was too much pressure for you. He was like, but I did really love you. And he goes like, I just could not be the man that you needed me to be. I was like, wow, that was amazing to hear that. Right. So then you start thinking, oh, well, I don't know, maybe this could work now. Like I started kind of maybe thinking of that idea. But it was not the case, because too many other things, as we talked, I still heard, okay, yeah, he's not ready. I was listening to the relationships he had, and he was still repeating the pattern. He could talk about things. He was better. And so it was fun to have the conversation for a while, but this is somebody I had such a big love for, that to just try to keep that contained was really difficult, because I knew that if I let myself be with him again, I would lose control of my life again. I just knew it. So I had to let it go. And it was really hard. So I'm telling you this, like, yeah, sometimes it's fun and you can have a conversation and look, it's harmless. I think it's really only harmless if they turn out to be gay or you're just really not attracted to them. Like if you were dating somebody and he was like, yeah, I'm actually gay, and that's the reason it doesn't work, then then you can be friends, because that piece is not available. Although some people even push that limit a little bit, So it's like, where are you with the sex? And if he's talking to his ex, is he attracted to her? What is the relationship exactly? What's being shared? What are the dynamics? What are they talking about? Why do we need this relationship? That's what I would really challenge you is, do you really need this relationship, and why? What is it that you talk about with him that you couldn't talk about with your significant other? So if you don't have a significant other right now and he doesn't either, then I guess you could be friends, but then are you going to be friends with benefits? Because then you're kind of you're in what I call the perpetual breakup. When you're friends with benefits with somebody that you've had a previous relationship, then somebody is hoping for more. It never is like both people are completely cool with just being like, all right, see you later. It doesn't work that way. Somebody's always developing feelings. Somebody's always having something going on. I've coached too many people, and if you're arguing with me, you're lying to yourself. Because if you can just have meaningless sex with somebody you used to care about and go on with your day, I just think that you got to look at that and go, well, how is it that I'm able to do this? What am I numbing about myself? Because that's not good for you. That's not self-love. That's basically using sex as the gumball. It's a temporary fix, but it's not allowing yourself to have the time that you need to prepare for a healthy love that's really going to contribute to your life. So, can exes still be friends? It depends. That's going to be my, it depends. And it also, one thing that I feel like I said, because I did it in my other recording, is if you really love your significant other, and it really, when you're really with the right person, I don't need to tell anybody else. I don't need a guy best friend, or an ex. I would feel so sick to my stomach talking to my ex, because what I would talk to him about is what I would talk to Ian about. So it's like, that's what he and I share. That's our own private intimacy, connection, our friendship. So if the relationship you have with your significant other isn't enough and you feel like you need to go talk to your ex, what are you talking to him about? One, and then why aren't you talking to your current significant other about those same things? Like, that's the dynamic. I can't imagine sharing that with somebody else. I can't imagine needing to have that kind of relationship with anybody else but my guy. And so I want that to be a sign to you that if you're talking to your boyfriend or your husband and you're still like, you don't feel understood and you're going to that other relationship, that's not a good sign. So, because you're sharing intimacy outside of your primary relationship. So now if you have friends, like, I would always marvel at this, where I remember before when I was single, I would hang out with couples and they were able to talk about their relationship to me. And because I started asking questions, really because I was creating this kind of content and I was so curious, like, what's going on in your relationship? And this was also the critical point where I know God needed me to see that my relationship could not be the go-to quote unquote healthy relationship for everyone following Gumball Love. It forced me to look at hundreds of other people and their dynamics. And really, so I started asking people about their relationship, and they were able to talk about it so freely in front of me and in front of other people. They didn't feel the need to go have a secret conversation with me outside of, I didn't have to have the conversation with the wife away from her husband. She could say everything she would say to me in front of her husband. And I was like, wow, what is that like? I couldn't imagine it. Now I get it. So I don't need to have private conversations away from Ian, because we have such a close relationship. Our intimacy is so strong that a friendship with another dude, especially an ex, to me is a huge problem. And it also just doesn't make them feel good. Like if he was talking to his ex-girlfriend, and I would know they were talking about our relationship and what's going on in our life, and it would be like, well, why do you have to talk to her? What's going on? I would feel jealous. So it's also something you have to look at in yourself. Like, would you feel jealous? Can you deal with it? There are a lot of people out there that will say it's perfectly healthy. There are people out there that are telling you open relationships are okay. And that, I mean, I just saw an article with Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, and I'm like, really? You can have an open relationship. So if you can do that, you're not really that attached to the other person. You know what I mean? Like if they are having sex with somebody else and you can deal with that, then you probably should just get divorced. You know, what's the point of staying married? Like, I don't know. You know, they have a whole, I'm going to listen because although I can be super judgmental, always what I do is I go deep and I really try to understand what is actually going on with them. And sometimes and I've listened to them talk about it before. And when you really listen to the dynamic that they have, it's like, well, based on their background, their upbringing, their experience, you know, I haven't walked a mile in Jada Pinkett Smith's shoes. I don't know what it's like to be her in her life. I don't know what it's like to be married to an A-list celebrity, to have celebrity children. Look, everybody has their experience. However, just because they're a celebrity and just because they're sitting and on a camera and they're talking about a lifestyle, it doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that, oh, we should just be openly accepting of all these different dynamics, because people can get hurt in those dynamics. Like having an open relationship, I mean, I don't know who that's right for, but I don't think it's the majority of people. And I feel like I can guarantee you most of the time people are feeling jealous. I don't know if you've ever watched the show Sister Wives. I don't even know if it's still on, but it's the Mormon guy with 5 wives. And I believe they were in Utah, but then they had to move to Vegas, I believe, or Nevada. Anyway, it's been a long time since I followed the show. But at first I came to the show very judgmental. Like, oh my gosh, this guy has 5 wives. He's got to be a huge gumball guy. And, you know, what kind of a man has 5 wives? Okay. So then I started watching the show. And I was like, this guy isn't a gumball guy. So what is going on? Well, obviously they believe in polygamy. These people genuinely believe that having multiple wives is a good thing. Okay. This is what they're supposed to do. So I looked at this guy and I was like, wow, he is actually in 5 committed relationships. He has 5 different families in 5 different houses. And the wives all knew each other, because I think the show is called Sister Wives. And so the wives actually had a friendship. But then when the show started, he had 4 wives, and then there was a new wife that I don't know, I can't remember how he met her. But then the other 4 bonded together. And it's not really funny, but it's just kind of like they bonded together because they would all get jealous of the new wife. And was like, well, why are you jealous? Well, because they're having their honeymoon period and we're past that point. And so it was hard on them. And I was like, okay, this is where you know that it's wrong to share your guy with someone else, let alone other people. Because look how it makes you feel. It makes you feel jealous. It makes you feel hurt. It makes you feel like you're not enough and you're craving that time with him and you can't have it because it's being given to someone else. So I'm sorry if I'm anti-polygamy on my podcast, but I am anti-polygamy. Like, you know, that the idea that we have to be accepting of every lifestyle and under every circumstance. I'm sorry, I'm not. That is not okay because it makes her feel bad. She feels like she's depressed. She's sad. She's crying. And I'm not depressed and sad and crying in my relationship because my guy chooses me. I choose him. That is it to me. It's not easy to have a polygamous relationship, but it's polygamy as a whole. Let's hold on polygamy. I didn't even think, or I didn't even plan on going here, but an open relationship is like a lazy route to me. Like, oh, I'm going to be married, but I'm going to allow myself to be tempted. Well, then you're not committed. You're not in a relationship. It's like, I'm going to go on a diet, but I'm going to allow myself, if I feel like having ice cream, I'm going to have ice cream. Well, then you're not committed to the diet and the exercise plan, and you're not going to have the result. So if you want a beautiful relationship, you can't give yourself the freedom to succumb to temptation. So then we've decided, well, we're going to reframe what is right or wrong. But then everybody involved has to pretend like, oh yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this person having extramarital affairs outside of, or having affairs outside of our marriage because we've made that decision together. So it all gets down to two things. Maybe you just want to be married for your financial situation. You want to stay together as a couple because you have kids, or for your estate, and getting divorced is not a good idea. And so you create a dynamic that works. I guess I'm going to make it okay that we date outside of our marriage. But then what does that say about the marriage itself? Now, it looks to me that Jada and Will Smith have a good friendship, but they don't really have a romantic relationship. And so they've decided to stay in this marital union, but then allow themselves to date as if they were single. So like, what is that? To me, it's just, now you're just friends. So now I will listen to the interview because that's how I am. Like, even though I sound super judgmental, it's like, this is how I would talk to them. I'd be like, then what is the point of staying together if this is what you're going to do anyway? And so I challenge you to challenge them. Let's not sit there and let celebrities create lifestyles that everybody's supposed to go along with because their hair and makeup's done and they're in a studio and they're able to articulate really well. It's like, bottom line is, you're screwing some other chick and your wife's like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Okay, it's not complicated. It's just that you want the freedom to, you want the freedom to have sex when you feel like it with whoever you feel like. You know what I mean? Like, why is there's nothing glamorous about this lifestyle. And this is where I get annoyed about people glamorizing the lifestyle of glamorizing lifestyles that are really just, it's glamorized cheating. And so it's an abandonment of self. I'm going to abandon my own needs because my partner is telling me they want to have sex outside of our relationship. And so if I don't allow that, I lose the relationship altogether. So now I have to make this okay. And that's where it becomes really difficult. So anyway, I'd love for somebody to debate me. If you want to debate me on this, I'd love that conversation, because I believe we have to keep the conversation going. And, but I want to challenge people like, look, we are designed to be in committed relationships. We are designed to connect. We are designed to love. Anybody that says any differently is lying, because otherwise falling in love wouldn't be like, when you fall for, let's just think about this for a second. When you fall for somebody, do you really have that much control over it? I mean, I remember sitting with a client and she was like, I just want to do this and I just want to do that. And I just want to make sure this, and this. And I just smiled and she was like, what? I'm like, I just think it's hilarious that you think you have this much control over it. Like you when you fall in love, it just happens. Like, it's not something that you can try to slow it down, or you can try to, like, when people say they're going to try to take things slow, it's hilarious to me, because you want what you want. And when you find a person that you want to be with, that you're attracted to, that you can't wait to see, it's like, this is not a slow burn. It's like, you just know that this is what you want. And so when people are saying like monogamy isn't natural, it's like, really? Have you ever fallen in love with somebody? And it just happens because you just fall. That's the whole point. You fall in love because this person has what no one else has. And that bond and that connection happens without anybody doing anything other than just spending time with that person. And so how is that not natural? It's like, it happens without you even controlling anything. Anyway, I could go on this rant forever, but I wanted to kind of go down those roads with you of, can you be friends with your ex? I don't think so. I think that the only place you can be friends with your ex, or that you need to be friends with your ex, is when you have children with them. And that dynamic is always going to be complicated, because if your ex is a gumball guy, but he's still the dad, right? And I know, as growing up with my mom being a single mom, and I have so many clients that are single moms and friends that are single moms, and watching this dynamic, I feel so protective of the single mom, just because I saw how much my mother struggled when I was a kid, and then just watching so many people that I love manage this dynamic. And so, a lot of times you have to be somewhat friends or friendly to your ex-husband or ex-boyfriend or the father of your children, because you're sharing custody, you're meeting with them, you're attending events for your kids, you're dropping them off and picking them up. So there are these exchanges. And I remember being with my ex when this exchange of the kids would happen, and it was hard on me as the other woman, I guess, or not the other woman, but as, the new woman in his life, because I hadn't done that before. And I can see when people say, well, you don't have kids, so you don't understand. And although that might be true, I can tell you, it really doesn't feel good to hear that from somebody you're really into. So I'm going to give you mamas with babies. If a guy's really into you and he's taking time to be into your kids, don't say things like, you don't have kids, you don't understand. Because that might be true, but if they're making an attempt to understand, they're making an attempt to invest, and maybe, they're trying to understand the relationship that you have with the ex, because sometimes that friendly exchange can look too friendly, or it can make you feel like, oh, they're over there laughing together. What does that mean? And so you have to adjust to the fact that the person that you're falling in love with has a whole history with this other person, and they had children with them, and they raised children, and they did bottle feedings and diaper changes and bought new toys and had Christmases, and now that's not happening anymore. And here I am as the new person trying to understand where I fit. So it's not up to you to make that person feel comfortable, but I think it's important to, as time goes on, give them that place of significance, because they will become a parent to your children. I really feel like it's almost impossible to bring in a new person, especially if you're going to live together or get married, and then not have that person be a parent to those children. I couldn't have imagined not being that kind of a figure in their lives. And luckily for me, that person, if I would have married that person, his ex-wife would have been fully supportive of that. In fact, I've talked to her a few times after. We're like kind of friends, actually. We've been able to keep in touch over the years. And I remember asking her, like, how could you stand it? Like, how could you stand me there? And she was like, no, this is, you taught me what this should look like when my ex-husband is with somebody, that you love my kids, you cared for them, and you treated them like I would treat them. And that's what I wanted. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I just still think like she's an incredible woman, because I feel like I would become a psycho sharing my children with someone. But I guess, it's just something that you have to adjust to when you're divorced and you have kids, and there are other people in their lives. And I know this can be horrible for some people, and it can be very friendly, and some people can really make it work. Like, the celebrity examples like Bruce Willis and Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, and like how it all kind of like they would all hang out together when the kids were young, even though Ashton Kutcher was kind of the same age as the kids. It was just like they made it work because they were able to develop a friendship. So friendship is a tricky thing with exes because of the sexual attraction, because of the fact that there was a huge amount of feeling and connection at one point. And even though that might be over, I think you really have to examine what that relationship needs to look like. And so if you're dating somebody who has children and they have this relationship with their ex, it's just a matter of, is it over? Is there still something there? Are they trying to act like there's nothing there, but there really is something? And are you that person that even though you've quote unquote moved on, you haven't really moved on? Because if you haven't, it's really obvious to the person trying to date you. And it's super hard on them to try to be with you and then watch you enjoy someone else. Maybe that's the way to tie it up in a bow, is to watching them enjoy someone else. That's tough to do. So how much are you enjoying that person? And if you're enjoying them a little too much and your significant other watching that dynamic, and if that makes them feel uncomfortable, makes them feel less important, then it's not worth it. And I just think about how much I love Ian and how I could just never do that to him. Even if I really had an important friendship with a guy, I have to say I would have to severely minimize it, or I would have to let it go just because our relationship is so much more important. I mean, he's the most important person. And I think if you don't feel that way, it's probably not the right person. If you're hanging on to some ex and you're super angry that this new person that should be the love of your life isn't comfortable with it. And the same is reversed. If you're trying to be with a guy and he's holding on to his ex and they have to talk on the phone all the time and it's private and they're texting and he's laughing and they're texting back and forth, it's not fun to be in that situation where you're the observer of that. So coming back to the polygamy conversations, I know I said I was going to come back to that. So if you've ever watched the show Sister Wives, as I watched the show, I actually started to get connect to the characters. And it's been a while since I've watched this, so if they've all turned into a mess, I have no idea. But at the time, I remember thinking, wow, these are 5 really good women. They're really good moms. And he actually was a really good dad. And he was not gumball-y. He wasn't attention seeking. He was living the life he felt like he was supposed to live. And that in his religion, I'm supposed to have multiple wives and I'm supposed to have all these children and all the kids knew each other. And they were actually, I mean, I'll use this term loosely, but if you were to look at them as individual family units, they look like very healthy families. And these people were not crazy. They were not weirdos at all. And so this is why, like, when I'm super judgy or when I feel super judgy, like, oh my gosh, polygamy, it's wrong. And then it's like, okay, yes, you may think it's wrong, but does it hurt you to just look more into it? Or if you don't understand something, really just try to go deeper into it. Just listen to what they've gone through. What is the story? What happens here? What's it like on a day-to-day basis? And you might morally feel opposed to it. However, you have much more compassion around it. And so when I watched it, it was just like, wow, this guy's legitimately committed to all of these relationships, but he was only one man. And so he was spread thin and he couldn't give everybody what they wanted. And the poor guy was so freaking stressed out because he literally, I mean, they had schedules. He had to manage 5 households. They had to figure out how to do it financially. And it was a lot of stress and pressure. But I always took note of the women that were not spending time, like the days they didn't get to spend time with him, how jealous they felt, how sad they felt, how it really did affect them, that they suffered from depression. Some women couldn't have children or they struggled with fertility, and then the other women weren't struggling with that. And then she would feel like she was less than. And so those are the feelings that are not appropriate in a healthy, committed relationship. You are enough for a guy to just want you and only you, and not want to talk to anybody else, not want to be with anybody else, that you are the one he wants to be with. You are the one he craves. You're the one he misses. You're the one he can't wait to come home to. This is real and you deserve it. So there are all these people out there talking about alternative lifestyles. But at the end of the day, it's not real love. It's an experience. Sure, it's a lifestyle. Sure, you can have a marriage that is open and you can go have sex with somebody, but okay, so you had an orgasm in a different location with a different person. Like, what is that lifestyle? It's gumball love. It's, I want to have my gumballs whenever I want them, and I've justified it so I can get them. But even if someone said, you can't judge that, let them live the way they want. Sure, go live with the way you want, but don't try to pretend to me that you're happy, that makes you feel good, that makes you feel worthy, that makes you feel like, because they're missing out on the deep intimacy that you can only have with a person who's committed to you, that loves you. That kind of relationship is so beautiful. And I think that when people don't have it, sometimes they're like, well, then maybe, or they give up on it. I think there's a big part of a big problem with people giving up on it, and then they just try something different, but it's not going to make you happy. Having random sex, or sex whenever you quote unquote feel like it, sex does not bring you intimacy or closeness or feeling valued or understood. It's only a short period of time. In the relationship that becomes valuable is the one that cares about the things you care about, the one that listens to you and cares about what's hurting you, what's exciting you, what's frustrating you, how's work going, how are family dynamics going, how's that friendship going, how's your boss treating you, what are you doing if you're doing a hobby, they get into that. How are you sleeping? I mean, I'm just naming all the things that Ian and I talk about. Like we wear our Fitbits to bed, because I switched from a Fitbit to an Apple Watch, because I like the Apple Watch for my workouts, but then the Fitbit manages or looks at sleep, and he's always like, what was your sleep score? How did you sleep? And yeah, you seem like you slept really great. Like, he's just so worried and always concerned that I'm resting. And then he's like, okay, that's really good that you got rest, because now you'll be fresh and you can write again today. And how did this go? And every coaching call is like, how did that go? And you know, I'll be like, oh my gosh, she had an aha moment. And he's like, you can't wait. And a lot of times I'm rushing from a coaching call to the gym and we're having these conversations. Like, don't tell me that an open relationship where I can just go have sex with a guy is better than that. It's not. But there are people that are trying to make you think it is. And then you're trying to live it. And then it's like, this isn't fun, because it's not. And there's no fulfillment there, because sex does not bring you intimacy, closeness, and the feeling of being seen and heard and being able to just relax and be totally yourself and know that that's enough. That's better than any sexual experience or any sexual lifestyle that people want to think is so incredible. It's like, at the end of the day, it's just an orgasm, people. You know what I mean? It's like, if that's where we're finding our fulfillment, and that's what we're calling a lifestyle, the average sexual experience is 2 to 8 minutes. I mean, if this is what we're hanging our hat on, then we've got problems, because there's so much more to life than that. Okay, I'm going to jump to the next questions really quick. Dating when there is a 10 plus year age gap. Okay. So here's the deal on age gap. Okay, so it depends on which way we're going. Are we going to where they're so young that, you know, it's illegal? Then I'm going to say no, then that's a problem. But dating somebody who's 10 years older than you or 10 years younger, people do this all the time. So it really gets down to, are you okay with it? And if it's the right person for you, I just think you're not going to be able to help it. You're just going to be with them. You're going to want to be with them anyway. So age really doesn't matter when it comes down to it. I can't speak from experience really here very much, because I've mainly dated people very close to my age. I think the most I've ever gone is 5 years. Although I did go on one date with this guy who was, I think he was 25, and he just begged and begged. And I was like, I'm just going to go on this date. I just sat there and he was just like, oh yeah. Like he was so into it. And I was like, I'm so sorry, but I can't. You're a kid to me. I can't do it. I went just for the experience, and he was just like, I am not a kid. I was like, I know, because when I was 25, I didn't feel like I was a little kid either, and you're not. But I'm like, to me, I can't do it. I can't get past it. He looked so little to me. I was like, I can't do it. So if you can't, you can't. But if it's somebody that you're really interested in, and you're 35 and he's 45, or you're 45 and he's 55, then if it's who you want to be with, and it's who you have the connection with, and I just think that if you're sitting there and you're questioning age, is there something more that you're questioning there, that you're maybe using age as the excuse? Or is it the pressure you think people will put on you? Or does this person look a lot older, or do they look a lot younger, and that's what you're having a problem with? But at the end of the day, if two people want to be together and there's a 10-year age gap, there's a lot of examples of people that have overcome that. People have overcome many larger age gaps of 20 years. But here's the downside to that. Like if you're not in love and you're not sure, and you're like, should I consider this? Or if you're just setting parameters on dating websites, I think there's a lot to be said for the references to so many things. Like Ian and I are 6 days apart. We're the exact same age. So whether it's, Ice Ice Baby, or cartoons we watched on our as kids, or like music or movies, all of the ways that we perceive the world, and how we grew up, and who was president as we were growing up, and historical events as we experienced them. It really does help to be closer in age, but it isn't the end all be all either. Some of us are old souls. Like I thought I may have ended up with somebody older than me, because when I was young, I always felt old. And when I was in junior high, I wanted to be in high school. When I was in high school, I wanted to be in college. And when I was in college, I wanted to be working. And I always wanted to be, actually at the age I am right now, it's the way I've always felt in my body. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm finally at the age where I really feel like I'm in the right place. And yet I look at people that have children that are my age, that are graduating from high school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have a high school kid. That's weird to me. Like, I don't feel old enough for that, but I haven't experienced that yet. So that's another story. But I can't make these decisions for you. And as a coach, I don't make decisions for you. I don't tell you that you should or shouldn't do anything, but I do give you a lot more perspective. It's not like therapy when you're coaching with me. It's just different. One of my clients said that, my academy grads actually said that, my therapist helps me with my past and you help me with my future. And so if you have a really good therapist, I'm actually looking for a therapist I can partner with, because I really appreciate when someone will say, my therapist said this or that. And it's really helpful to do both. When you have a therapist and you're coaching with me like that, I'm always like, oh yeah, that's good. Like I love having that connection there when you're working on things from both sides, from the past, putting your family dynamics together, and then also you're working on dating and red flags, and having that therapist work on the foundational, the core, from birth to today, and then taking that information and applying the Gumball Love formula to it. It's very powerful. It works really well for a lot of people. Okay, so next question is, what does dating a good guy look and sound like, specifically when talking online? So in short, the guy will take a genuine interest. He will actually reach out with a real conversation. It's not going to be, hi, how are you? How was your weekend? He will actually introduce himself. He will engage you, and he will engage you consistently. It will be like, oh, this person he's not going to engage you sexually. He's not going to push buttons. He's not going to play games. It's going to seem, I think a lot of times it can seem like, okay, this guy, maybe he seems a little too, it might feel dry to you at first, because it's like, he's not going to be intense, is what I'm saying. So it's going to feel respectful. And when you're coming off of Gumball Guys, that can feel a little bit too low key. It can feel like, oh, is this guy really into me? So if he's consistently reaching out, he's consistently making conversation, but it's not going in a sexual direction or an intense direction, and then he makes a plan to actually meet you in person and have a real date, that's when you know, not necessarily that it's a perfect guy, but it's a guy that's got more self-respect. Those are the kinds that I want you to focus on dating. And then he may not reach out to you, and he's not going to blow up your phone before the date. So you can be like, oh, this guy just set up a date with me, and then he's not texting me 3 days before the date all day long because he doesn't know you. This is what Gumball Guys will text you repeatedly up until the date. Now, it's like, I want you to know that every single person is different. So I can say a lot of things, but when it comes down to each individual guy, there will be all these nuances. And that's why I coach so many people, because when I can customize it, then I can really dig into what that specific guy is doing versus speaking in so many generalities. So sometimes I've dated Gumball Guys that did everything I just said. They set up a date. They were really nice. They followed up. They would call. They would have nice conversation, because some Gumball Guys are way more sophisticated, that attention-seeking behavior is more complex, that it doesn't come off as much of a caveman. So you still gotta, I can teach you to still look for it, but at least you're going to be filtering out the hi, how are you? Good morning, beautiful. How was your day? How was your weekend? Hey, hi. It's like, okay, stop it. Like those are the guys we have to just completely eliminate. But a good guy in online dating, if you download the workbook and you look at those flavors and you go, okay, was he sexual? Was he argumentative or trying to pick fights? Did I feel like I had to entertain him? Did he bring up other women? Did I feel like I had to feel sorry for him? Was he the idolize me guy where I felt like he was, trying to, like I had to be his adoring fan, or he was bragging or showing off? Or did I feel like I had to chase him? Or did he become unavailable? Did he go MIA? Did I feel like I had to convince him of something? So when you're asking, what does it sound like? Go through those flavors. Did I have to do any of those? Is he the skeptic? Is he Mr. Hard to Get? Is he the show off? Is he the victim? Is he the cheater? Is he with somebody else, or maybe kind of with somebody else? Is he the fussy baby? Is he a bratty guy that, oh God, we're not talking about what I want to talk about, so now I'm bored? Is he Mr. You know what? I'm looking at Entertain Me, and I've called him the brat. I've called him the fussy baby, but maybe he's the bored guy. I don't know, there's something too. I have the word bored written under that. Like I have all these subtitles under, like, the drama king, he's critical and mean, and like the arouse me guy is the player. But then underneath, I'll just tell you, like in my notes, I have like arouse me is horny, fight me is critical, entertain me is bored, the cheater is tempted, or the compete for me, pity me guy, the victim, he's needy, idolize me guy needs the spotlight, he's the show off, chase me guy, he needs to feel like he's in demand. Convince me guy, he's actually, I have the word afraid under there. Like he's afraid of everything. So he's the skeptic. So you're always convincing him. Anyway, so if you're doing any of that, that's not what it looks like. The normal guy is not going to sex or fights, or he's not acting bored. He's just easy to talk to. It flows. It's smooth. And it's not going to go overly intense into attraction, because it's inappropriate to do that. So he's not going to go there. Okay. And then the last question is dating burnout, anxiety, PTSD, and losing hope. So I've done a lot of podcasts around this, and we're kind of running up against time. So here's the thing about burnout. Burnout happens when you are in a rush. It's not happening according to your timeline. So, and then you're comparing that timeline against other people. So then you're going to get burned out because you're trying so hard and you're not getting the result you want. And the PTSD is coming from trying so hard and then being afraid of what you've experienced in the past. And so, one, I would say, take a break. Two, you have to find peace with being single. And finding peace with being single isn't about, oh, I'm happy that I don't have anybody. It's more of getting happy in your life. What kind of life do you need to live where you're happy with that life, even if nobody came into your life and you lived that single life forever? Could you do it? Not even could you do it, but could you create a life that was actually exciting enough that could keep you fulfilled? And so, like if I didn't have Ian, I would be doing a lot more ballroom dancing. And honestly, I'm putting all my money into Gumball Love right now, but I would be more committed to that. There's all these things that I would do if I didn't have Ian in my life. And there's things I'm still going to do. And I am doing a lot of things too, but I'm just saying, like, I know exactly what I would fill my time with if I wasn't filling it with him. And the things that we, like, as soon as I get done working, we have things we do together. But if he wasn't there and we didn't have those things to do together, I can tell you 50 things I would be doing. So that's where I want to get you, to where it doesn't feel like the guy is this big empty space. And when that's filled, everything is going to come together, because there's still so many things I do that I'm not doing with him. And I didn't understand that part before. I thought it was get married, have the house and the kids and the dog, and that's what fulfillment was. I didn't understand that you need to have that fulfillment before you meet them, and that way you're able to have two whole people coming together, not two halves. So I understand the concept of other half, because I feel that with him and I get it, but he is a whole person and I am a whole person. So, all right. I hope this helps you with can exes be friends, and how to deal with dating burnout, and what does it look like when you're dating a good guy. So understand this. Even when you think you have a good guy in front of you, just relax. Don't try to control the process. Enjoy each time together and continue to evaluate. That's all you can do. You can't rush it, because as soon as you're like, oh my gosh, I finally found a good guy, this is the one, then you turn into a weirdo, and then it's like you're not being yourself. So we have to get to that point where we're comfortable in our own skin and we can totally be ourselves, even when the cute, hot guy that, you love his smell and his lips and his eyes and all the things, that yes, that can still be there, but you still need to be comfortable in your own skin. Okay. And finding the right guy is also not going to be somebody you're not attracted to. I sit and look at Ian when we're brainstorming and I'm still like, I love those beautiful eyes. I love those lips. He's tall and delicious and he's everything I want. And so I did not have to settle there. I did wait a long time though. And so I want you to just say to yourself, however long it takes, it's worth it. I'm willing to wait, because living a life with somebody who's not quite right, I'd much rather be single than be with somebody who's just about right, but not quite. I mean, to me, it's impossible. So, all right, guys, I could go on and on forever and ever, because this is what I love to do. I love helping you. I love hearing from you. So if you're still listening, thank you for hanging with me to the end. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it,
A 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.